Hello everyone, welcome back to my anime-only analysis of Re:Zero Season 4. This episode took a bit of a slower pace than the others, but that's very much welcome after getting off from the craziness that was in episode 3. It's definitely a lot more lore-based, but let's get straight into it. The episode opens up with a sort of dream sequence with Regulus and Pleiades, the two Sin Archbishops that Subaru defeated. Both of them are ridiculing Subaru. I recognize the track playing in the background as a theme that played during Pleiades' introduction. Their faces are so expressive, and I enjoy how persistent these characters are, even after their deaths. And Regulus' appearance here makes it quite clear that Subaru also has the greed witch factor, alongside Sloth. The transition here using the TV effect was quite interesting. Then Satella makes her appearance. I like how dim and drab Subaru's clothes look here in this first shot. Satella's hands look unsettling and rough, and as usual, she says, "I love you." I'm wondering if this scene happened because Subaru is so close to where Satella is sealed. Like, she's able to impact him more. This could be the result of different creative approaches, or to build up the mystery and suspense with Satella, but when we first saw her, she was so much more obscured when interacting with Subaru in these types of sequences like in Season 1, when he used her to rid himself of Pleiades' possession. Then Subaru wakes up in Emilia's lap, and interactions like these just make me think of how close they've gotten to each other. It's also kind of a reverse of the scene prior, where rather than Satella touching Subaru's face, he touches Emilia's while noting that her face is soft and warm, in contrast to how Satella's touch looked. When Beiko walks in, she's quite serious, but maybe because of the worry he caused her. She's not unfriendly as she still holds his hand, but she's definitely more on edge. We find out that they made it to the Pleiades Watchtower, and the sniper is waiting outside the carriage. There's a lot of suspense built up with her in the past 2 episodes, with her having killed Subaru twice, and having annihilated the centaur Maw Beast, but she seems to do a complete 180 here, rubbing up against Subaru and nearly breaking his back from a hug with her brute strength. This rather comedic scene is quite a contrast to what happened before. Poor Beiko over here is getting crushed. She says her name is Shaula, dubbing herself the Keeper of the Watchtower and Master's student, rather than the Sage as described by Aridna in the first episode. Emilia, upon seeing this, immediately goes to kick Subaru, proving that she holds the same envy as Satella. The group reconvenes around the scene of Shaula sticking to Subaru. They're just as confused as he is. Apparently her master told her not to communicate with anyone. Subaru aptly responds by calling her master an ass, as she further reveals that she pretty much only acts with her master's permission. Shaula then reveals that she's not the Sage, showing that Aridna's knowledge in the first episode was a misconception. Apparently, the reason Shaula perceives Subaru as her master is because of his scent. They apparently share the same disgusting smell, which is something we've been introduced to before in Season 3, although not exactly with the same words, where Garfield mistook Al's scent for Subaru when searching for him. Shaula then tells us she's familiar with both the dragon, Volcanica, and the stick swinger, Reed, and she seems to not like them very much. She's pretty separated from logic as she doesn't realize that Reed died even though he was alive 400 years ago. She reveals the name of the actual sage / her master to be Flugel, which Subaru recognizes as sharing the name of Flugel's tree, the tree used to slay the white whale. It also has the writing Flugel on it in Japanese. This alongside Shaula using English phrases makes it pretty clear that, same with Subaru and Al, Flugel is from Earth. The name Flugel is also uttered by Gyus during Arc 4 as he gains the Sloth witch factor. The group begins to climb the tower, and Meili gets a piggyback ride from Shaula. Subaru describes her hair as a ponytail, but she adamantly denies it, calling it a scorpion's tail. On that note, I would like to take a look at her design, and I would like to say it's not my favorite. She has a lot of stars on her outfit, which I find interesting, especially given what happens later, but she's basically in a bathing suit. She wears short shorts that look kind of Earth-like. I will say though, her hair definitely looks like a scorpion's tail. Maybe this characterizes Flugel as, he's probably the one who told her to wear this stuff. He's definitely that type of person. The person that Ram jokingly says Subaru is. A lot of Shaula's mannerisms actually characterize Flugel too. He's definitely very eccentric. I assume she copies from him with the drumroll stuff. She acts like I don't really have a better word to describe this, an anime character, and she's met with strange looks from literally everyone else. This right here is also a pretty funny animation. The group continues moving up the tower, and Beiko doesn't actually know much about Flugel. Even though she's been around for a pretty long time, she's not even familiar with Flugel, so a lot of this information is lost to history or purposely kept secret. Shaula then reveals that the tower being a watchtower isn't its actual purpose, and that it's meant to be an archive of all the information in the world. The Great Pleiades Library. On a side note, if you're enjoying this video so far and want to see more, you should subscribe to our channel. That's all I have to say. Back to the video. We then cut to Subaru and Ram entering the room where Pachache and Rem are kept. We're told it houses a spirit, and it has a very serene atmosphere. It feels like pure benevolence, that as it has no will, and all it does is heal the injuries or illnesses of those who enter. We get this heartful reaction between Ram and Subaru, once again showing us how much they mean to each other, and that even though Subaru is the only one who remembers Rem, they both love and care for her, which keeps the both of them going, showing that Subaru isn't alone in this struggle. We cut back to the rest of the group, and we're shown how easily Shaula took those shots at Subaru, despite all of the suffering that it caused, seeing them as simple pests. But those thoughts may have been influenced by Flugel, with her even calling it Hell's Snipe in English. Beiko is fittingly wary of her, thinking that it could only be a matter of time before Shaula realizes that Subaru isn't Flugel. Shaula then reveals that she's been watching the sand dunes for 400 years because of her master's command. Emilia looks quite empathetic here. Subaru then commands her to not harm any of the people in his team. At this, Shaula moves her eyes a little downward, and it reveals a bit of sadness, while her eyebrows make her look displeased. Beiko doesn't react with empathy, despite Shaula's story being similar in ways to hers. This could show a bit of her disdain towards her, and further shows how much she just doesn't trust her. She even looks a bit angry. And here, I don't think Subaru really likes lying to her, or rather unintentionally lying. The staircase that leads up to the exam/trial hall is flanked by birds on pillars. All the connections I could make here are kind of loose, so I'm not going to say them. We then reach a completely white room with a black monolith standing before the team. We get this cool sequence of the camera rushing through the room as the exam begins. Then, using the voice of the person who touched the monolith, it says, "Hero vanquished by Shaula, touch upon his grandest splendor." I like how Julius instinctively catches Subaru as he recoils from the noise, which I think is probably only in his head. Emilia used the do shit until it works approach, which is kind of funny, and pretty much everyone is perplexed by this puzzle. Subaru then asks Shaula if she's defeated anyone. She responds in an interesting way, as for most battles in the ReZero world, the combatants announce their name to the other fighter as a sign of respect. But Shaula clearly doesn't care, which could show Flugel's cultural divide. Subaru asks if Shaula killed the first Sword Saint, which is probably just him throwing shit at the wall because Ram said he died of old age earlier. She acted with aversion before when hearing the name of the Sword Saint, but this time she runs away screaming, flinging Melee off her. Julius seems to be pretty excited to hear about Reed from a person who actually knew him. Being from the Estrella family, Julius expected him to be someone of honor, but Shaula reveals that he was a piece of crap, who bullied those weaker than him, and Julius is pretty shocked. This is pretty much the opposite of Reinhardt, as even though he's pretty much the strongest person in the world, he still acts with humility. Subaru deduces that Shaula is probably no help, given that she's both the guardian of the tower, who probably wouldn't help him in the case that she would have had to be defeated in order to get there, so there must be another solution. I like this shot of Shaula's dangling scorpion tail as Subaru comes to his conclusion, with the stars on her outfit helping him as well. I think that Subaru's expressions in this episode are great, showing off his confidence as he solves the trial. Subaru is pretty much perfectly fit for this exam, as he used his knowledge of the constellations and stars. The Sin Archbishops must have been named in a similar way to Shaula, telling a story. Guse was dubbed Pedoguse by Pandora the moment he absorbed the Sloth Witch Factor, and this may have been the case with the other bishops as well. Shaula is named after a star that refers to a scorpion's tail, which is probably why she was so adamant about her hair being a scorpion tail. Subaru then tells the tale of Orion and his defeat by the Scorpion. He interpreted his grandest splendor as the star that shines the brightest in Orion's constellation, causing him to choose Rigel, the blue supergiant, which reveals the great Pleiades library. Overall, I think that was a pretty great episode, revealing a ton of lore about the Pleiades Watchtower and the true sage, Flugel. If I had to give it a rating, I would say it's a 9 out of 10. I don't mean to say that every episode with blood and guts is better, but the direction of the last one was truly generational, so it's going to be pretty tough competition for the rest of the episodes in this season, but I honestly hope it gets surpassed. Also, if it feels like I'm summarizing too much, I'm just trying to point out details that I find important. Anyways, thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more content like this, subscribe to our channel. That's all I have to say. See you later.